Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Tracy Cram Perkins and our show today is Dementia Home Care. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After, which is also available in audio. What happens to the caregiver when everyone else focuses on the dementia diagnosis? Joining me today is returning guest, Dr. Danielle Lord of Archetype Learning Solutions and the founding editor of Forge Magazine. And this is what we'll be exploring today. Welcome back, Danielle.
Oh, hi, Tracy. It's so good to see you. It's been a couple of years. We've had lots of email communication, but good to be back with you on the show. Good to see you in person. And yeah, I think this is a really important topic. So I'm happy to dive into this.
So let's just jump in and get started. For the audience who doesn't know you, how did your journey get started?
Oh, gosh, which journey? I have spent 32 years in the healthcare environment. Much of that was long-term care, assisted living, memory care. I've done work with the nursing shortage. Most recently, my academic work, my academic research has been on understanding how physicians transition into leadership roles, which has brought its own set of workplace trauma into the conversation, but primarily have worked in the space of organizational development. And in that field, we really focus on a human-centered work environment. So employee engagement, understanding role stress, understanding really what happens to people when they get into environments of extreme stress. And we can certainly say that that exists within healthcare and within the caregiving community as well. So whether you are a professional caregiver, and that is kind of an umbrella that extends or includes the caregiver in the space of caring for mom and dad, but it also includes first responders, folks who work in hospitals. Even just recently had a gal reach out to me and said, our homeless team is really struggling right now. So those are caregivers as well. But then we've got the lay caregivers, which is what you, Tracy, as a 4-time caregiver survivor experienced, was that family member who came into the space to say, what do I do next? I found myself in this place, and I think that's where we're seeing a great deal of distress. But from that, started my own business 5 years ago, Archetype Learning Solutions, and we really, our focus is on building healthier, sustainable organizations so that we can be caring for everyone. And much of that work, because of my background, includes a lot of folks in the healthcare environment. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about invisible injuries, because that's really what people are going to be curious about. What are signs that people are experiencing them?
Yeah, I think it's a big topic, and I think it really will take a lot more conversations to unpack what this means. But it really is understanding the difference and accepting that there's a different type of trauma that exists within caregivers. So we typically tend to think about trauma as an event, right? A fire, an accident, something that was catastrophic that happened to us. Maybe it happened to other people as well that were part of a traumatic experience. But the thing we often neglect to think about is what is referred to as level 2 trauma. And that is trauma that is recurring, it's systemic, and it's often interpersonal in nature. And so that happens when we're constantly and repeatedly exposed to things that contribute to moral injury, which is, of course, having to do something that goes against your own personal values or your value set. It's having to perform what is called surface acting. So just showing up always with a smile on your face, saying everything's fine, like my grandma used to do, and not being able to really express the grief and frustration that you're experiencing. So that's referred to as surface acting. There's PTSD that happens along with that, and certainly burnout. So that is kind of all falls under the umbrella of level 2 trauma. In our research that I've done with doctors Christopher Kodama and Maria Granzotti, we labeled that cumulative workplace distress, trying to bring more awareness to the fact that this is bigger than just one person experiencing burnout. And I think the challenge I have with this label of burnout is it's almost ooh, you caught burnout. That's on you. You need more resilience training. You weren't good enough. You weren't strong enough. You weren't capable enough. And that's a pretty tough road to bear, pretty tough cross to bear on a long road alone oftentimes.
So that makes me think of something else. Are they trained with trauma-informed care?
I don't think a lot of people are. And I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. And I think oftentimes when I've talked to trauma surgeons, we do trauma-informed care. We have a debrief after a traumatic surgery. That's nice. You talked about what went well, what didn't go well, what you would do next time, but you didn't talk about how that's impacting the human and the human spirit and the human psyche. I think the greatest hoodwink we've ever been hoodwinked with is sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think quite the opposite is true.
So then would you describe for like caregivers, what would be an example of trauma-informed care?
I think really trauma-informed care, and hopefully we're using the same definition of trauma-informed care. So with that, can you share your definition? So we're saying the same language and having the same conversation. So how are you defining trauma-informed care?
I agree with you on the debriefing, but I also want to include in there the acknowledging the feelings of the caregiver.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, making sure we're having the same conversation here. Yeah, and I don't think it happens. Like I said, this was a trauma surgeon that I was talking to probably a couple years ago, and he was like, well, this is what we do. Why would I consider how my team felt that they might be experiencing something that was traumatic? And I think having been in those in the healthcare environment, that oftentimes gets overlooked. And I've heard from nurses who have said in nursing school, we were told if you have a traumatic event, just go home and drink a bottle of wine. That'll help you get to sleep. So we are not doing our healthcare employees, caregivers, first responders justice because we're just actually not even bringing up trauma-informed care, I don't think at all. And it's certainly not happening with the lay caregiver, the family members who are experiencing a whole lot of invisible injury. And it's grief that really no one names. It's grief like mom didn't know who I was. Dad was combative and hit me because he didn't recognize me. It's the family members who haven't made the end of care, end of life decisions. And now everyone is fighting because no one can agree with the next steps to take. So from a lay caregiver, the individual who has suddenly found themselves in the place of caring for mom and dad, that is certainly traumatic in and of itself, if we use that level 2 definition of trauma. Yeah, but no, we're not doing a good job at all.
So you mentioned the grief that isn't named. Is there a specific term for that people might hear and not know what that means?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that there is. Maybe we should put a label on it and put a stake in the ground and say this is what it is right now, right here on the Dementia Home Care Show. But it really is. I think it's just coming to terms with it and recognizing it. I think everyone knows it, everyone feels it, but because there isn't a name where you can say, this is what it is, I can hang my hat on this. I think a lot of people just go through life thinking it's them. Oh, I caught burnout. I'm not good enough. I'm not resilient enough. I better go take another resilience course. But it certainly is part of that surface level acting where we're performing those emotions, even though we don't necessarily feel it because perhaps we become so numb to it. I think this is, again, specifically relevant to dementia caregiving. The patience that you have to endure as you get yet another phone call at 2:00 in the morning, the bedtime routines, the wake up routines, the things that happen at night when nobody else is there. I think caregivers, especially the professional caregivers coming into the home, oftentimes experience this invisible injury as well. We send caregivers out to somebody's home without any understanding of what they might experience when they're going to walk through that door. Who knows what's on the other side of that door? And that alone could be traumatic.
Can you give examples of how to deal with anticipatory grief like that?
I think, again, we have to recognize it and call it out for what it is, have empathy, at least compassion for somebody who might be experiencing it. But if we ourselves haven't been in that space, compassion is great. Hopefully we can give compassion in this space, but until we've experienced, we can't empathize, right? That's the different classic definitions of compassion and empathy. I think an understanding, I think we're seeing this a lot in the workplace right now because we've got this sandwich generation. So the leaders, managers, our employees are coming into the workspace. And now we've got this double expectation or this dual expectation of having to show up, be our best in the workplace when we show up. All the while we're carrying all this grief, trauma, frustration, stress, anxiety of what's mom doing right now? Did the caregiver arrive? Am I going to get a phone call that says you've got 24 hours to move your parent? All of those things that are niggling in the back of your mind, all while you're showing up and expected to work at your peak performance. So that is definitely something that I think we see showing up amongst the family members who are caregiving, but those are also the things that our own caregivers are having to show up with every day as well. Am I going to get hit again today? Is there going to be a combative patient or resident and I'm not going to see something that could possibly be occurring in my line as a caregiver or a nurse. So I've got a couple examples. I was awarded with several round trip tickets out to Maryland to address a really serious situation that happened when I was in the corporate sector in long-term care. And we had a couple that was in assisted living, a high degree of dementia among both. The husband had a catheter, which he believed was a listening device, and pulled his catheter out. The nurse responded, and the gentleman resident beat both of them pretty severely. So that certainly is physical trauma that shows up in the workplace. And that nurse never returned to nursing. She was so traumatized. So that's certainly one example of how that physical trauma can show up. And we carry that. Now we've got both level 1 physical trauma and the level 2 trauma where this nurse said, I can't go back into this setting. She was so distressed.
That is understandable.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
Well, I'm going to dial us back because you did make a statement earlier about somebody getting a phone call and they only have 24 hours to get somebody. They're getting kicked. Their family member's getting kicked out, and they have to get it taken care of right then. Do you have any suggestions for dealing with that?
I think that's part of the invisible injury, because while I don't have any real solid suggestions on how to deal with it, it's one of the great challenges that we see in this particular environment. You've got 24 hours because we don't want the liability. Okay, that's understandable for the business owner, but now my entire world has to stop because I suddenly have to figure out how to get care, find a bed that probably doesn't exist or may not exist within my geographical area. I'm suddenly faced with doing all kinds of things in language I don't understand, in a situation I don't understand, and all while completely stressed. Is there a good way to deal with it? I don't know that there is, because I think the system that we work in is so broken right now. Here's an example of a family member of a friend whose father had a fall, went into skilled nursing, got the physical therapy that he needed in order to improve his mobility, his ambulatory skills and such through physical therapy. They sent him home with a PT order so that he could continue strengthening in the home with stairs. And it was 6 weeks before anyone even got back to him to get his PT started. PT is physical therapy. In that 6 weeks, what do you suppose happened? A whole lot of stress. And the patient lost all his ambulatory skills that he picked up in the skilled nursing while he was getting constant physical therapy. How do you fix that system? How do you fix something that's that broken when it took 6 weeks for the PT provider to even get back in contact?
All right. In that moment, I'm sure the family was probably in shock. Is there any way to direct them to some resources that might help them? Do you know?
Oh, I think, the resources of physical therapy or those other therapy services that are out there, that I can't speak to. What I can speak to is ensuring that you're taking care of yourself. And I think the additional stress to that for family members is, do I have the skills in order to adequately help my mother, father, sister, brother ambulate around the house? Am I going to cause more injury? Am I going to get injury myself when I have to do a lift, a transfer from one chair to another? So there's compounded injury that the lay caregiver especially experiences in a situation like that. So I think primarily it really is about self-care and not getting to the point of cumulative workplace distress, as we like to call it, as opposed to burnout. But burnout is certainly a part of it. In really understanding what it is that you're getting into, that it is very challenging emotionally and mentally, and it's very physically demanding work as well. So understanding that, I think a lot of family members step into this space and say, oh, I can do this. I cared for my children, right? It's no different. But now you have adults who still oftentimes have mental faculties and decisions that they want to make because these are adults. So the challenges are very different. It's not like just caring for a child. It's caring for an adult who still has free will, who still has decisions, who still has their own thought processes. And so understanding it, recognizing it before you go into it, that this is going to be difficult, challenging work. And so how do I put a plan in place to care for myself? I think is really, truly the best advice right now, because we are functioning and operating in such a broken system.
All right. So this makes me think of something else. You and I had talked about stress and scope creep.
Oh, yes.
You want to address that?
Oh, yeah. The scope creep I think the scope creep shows up in several ways, right? We've got the scope creep that just naturally happens as the dementia process occurs. And suddenly it was helping mom or dad remember where they put their car keys, putting Post-it notes all around the house, the constant reminders, which actually don't help. So if anyone's thinking about just doing constant reminders, it really doesn't help. It actually can cause more anxiety for both caregiver and the person in your care. But with dementia, because it is a progressive disease, I think that scope creep comes pretty quickly and can become very overwhelming. So really recognizing that it's likely to happen, but it's also happening within a care facility. So if you have a parent or a loved one that's in a care facility, they're going to be experiencing and noticing that progression as well. So with that progression, with the disease progressing like it does, comes more care that they're picking up on, they're recognizing it. And guess what's going to happen? That scope creep is going to show up in the form of a larger bill. So know that that's a potential as well, that the cost of care is going to increase as your loved one progresses through the disease process and even the aging process itself.
All right. In that moment, I don't want to be that caregiver. But what sorts of resources could you offer in that regard? I mean, can you recommend where somebody should pay attention and move towards? What can you recommend?
Yeah, I think, books like yours, Tracy, Dementia Home Care. There's some other books that talk about the dementia process. So I think understanding so dementia is an umbrella term. For those who may be hearing dementia for the first time or associating it maybe with just Alzheimer's or just Parkinson's, dementia is an umbrella term that covers both acute and chronic dementias. So know that you could have one Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, stroke is even considered a chronic dementia. But you can also have acute dementias that crop up, and this is particularly true in women. UTIs, for example, will cause confusion. So you have now compounding effects of an acute dementia on top of the chronic dementia. So paying really close attention to what type of dementia your loved one has so that you can follow that path of progression that's likely to happen. I think that's one way. Really getting a clear understanding. Lewy body disease is another one. Karpowski's syndrome. So knowing which dementia they have. So getting your loved ones to a gerontologist if they're a senior, and really understanding that process is key, but also knowing yourself and knowing what you need if you are the one that's being the caregiver. And even if you've got someone that's in a care environment like assisted living, memory care, adult family home, you're still going to be feeling the stress. That stress is going to show up in how your mom looks today versus how she looked 20 years ago. I remember when I was working in the industry, we had someone, two daughters who came in and said, make sure mom has a cashmere sweater and her pearls on every day. Well, guess what? That's not likely to happen. Next time you show up, you're probably going to see your mom in a sweatshirt with a cat on it and sweatpants and some easy to put on shoes and socks. So I think letting go of some of those images that you held as children into adulthood, I think that's traumatic as well too. It's really hard to see your parent, someone who maybe was very well put together, and suddenly you show up and you see them and they look very unkempt and disheveled. I think that can be very challenging as well. So understand that process as well and let go of some things, because I think that just causes more stress for individuals when they say mom doesn't look like what we expect her to look like. And no, she's not likely to. She's in a progressive disease process. So I'll pause and see if that answered the question, and then maybe we can turn over to some of the Compass tools that we have developed. So,
oh, you definitely answered my question. And yes, okay. So for the audience who doesn't know, what is Compass?
Thank you. So Compass is part of my ecosystem under Archetype Learning Solutions, and Compass stands for coaching or mentoring for providers affected by stress and strain. What I really like about the word Compass is that it really is designed to help professionals find that North Star, particularly, caregivers and other professionals, but find that North Star of caregiving. Because for professionals especially, most professionals went into caregiving because they really had the heart to do so. Nurses, caregivers, first responders. So really helping to find that North Star. These are some of the coaches that we contract with that we're seeing on the screen here. So that's one aspect of Compass and the name Compass. But the other thing I like about Compass is that it is the first 7 letters of the word compassion. So I think there's a great connection to the compass, the North Star, being compassionate and finding that compassion again. Because what happens oftentimes with caregivers is we get into this place of what we call compassion fatigue. And that also fits under our term cumulative workplace distress. But what we have designed for caregivers, a couple of different things. We have the coaches and we have the folks that are there to contract with if you wanted to engage with some of their exclusive services. But we have a burnout assessment so that you can kind of assess your own level of fatigue and where you're at. Now, of course, I developed this several years ago before we had a bigger understanding of level 2 trauma and cumulative workplace distress. So it is still labeled burnout, but it gives you a sense of your own degree of fatigue. Are you emerging into a fatigue state? Okay, great. Let's get some good support now so that we don't get into that more advanced state of fatigue. And if you are in that more advanced state of fatigue, what are some other things that you can do to reclaim your own agency and take care of yourself? Because you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else if you can't take care of yourself. It's that old saying, put your oxygen mask on first. Now, the other thing that we've done, and where I am particularly proud of this, is in what we call the RSI, or our response style indicator. So typically, resilience work, or you're burnt out, go either get on a benzodiazepine or go talk to a counselor, right? We have an EAP program for that, so you can get 3 sessions, right, and talk with the counselor, and suddenly you're better because you got medicated and talked to somebody. Stress, responses to stress, response to fatigue we have different response styles. I might need to journal. Tracy, you might need to get outside and do something very active. Dr. Jacqueline, the show producer, might need to do something entirely different. But we've oftentimes pigeonholed people into one of 2 solutions: get some meds or have some talk therapy. So our response style indicator helps you really understand what is the specific thing that you need in order to help yourself get that recovery from the fatigue that you might be experiencing as a caregiver. Again, lay caregiver or professional caregiver. So that's some of the solutions, or a couple of the kind of starting point solutions that we have within Compass. And then there is a litany of other simple techniques, things that you can do to help get yourself back into a more balanced state of repair if you are experiencing this degree of fatigue. All the resources that we have on Compass, aside from our mentors and coaches, those are, you contract with them to meet your needs. So they're kind of separate. We direct you to them, but you contract with them directly. But any of the tools and resources that we have on our Compass site are all complimentary for caregivers. So regardless of whether you're a professional lay caregiver, you're an EMP, whatever type of caregiver or clinician you are, all those tools and resources completely free. So
how did you come up with this program?
There is it's been around for quite a while. It's called the Schwartz Compassion Rounds. And it's very popular on the East Coast. And I heard about the Schwartz Compassion Rounds when I was the director of physician leadership development in a large health system. And I was so excited about this program. And I connected with the chief medical officer of the hospital where I used to work. And we were trudging down this path of implementing the Schwartz Compassion Rounds at that current hospital. Yeah, I'm working in a health system that has compassion in both our mission statement and as one of our core values. Surely this is going to align with everything that we do. So we are trudging down this path. I'm socializing this idea with all the CMOs within the health system that I knew. And I got an invitation to the CEO's office where I was told to cease and desist. And so kind of tuck your tail between your legs. And I knew with the CEO, you didn't ask questions. You just said, okay. And so all these years later now as a business owner, and no one can tell me no. So I started this program because I'm very passionate about this. And this is just a part of, I think, who I am and what I do for organizations. And again, in that human-centered space of making sure that everyone is well cared for. So that's how I started this. No one could tell me no. It's the best part of being self-employed.
So what is the audience takeaway that they're watching this right now as far as how this will help them, and how long do they think it should take, or should it?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think we oftentimes like to put a time frame around things, right? Well, you can get back on your feet in 3 weeks if you just do the right things. And I really wholeheartedly reject that idea. I mean, one of our sayings encompasses, don't let somebody else's trauma define your own, because trauma is a uniquely personal thing. Mm-hmm. So I would say the same thing applies to your own self-recovery journey. Don't let somebody else's timeline dictate your own. I think you're going to get there when you get there. It's the same thing we teach in organizations that are going through a significant organizational change. You're going to move through the transition at your own pace. So I think accept that, embrace it, and take little micro steps. Do something small every day to help yourself in that recovery journey, and know that you're going to have setbacks. Know that sometimes somebody's going to withdraw an emotional amount out of your mental bank account, and it's going to take you a couple days to refill that coffer. So I think slow, steady is what gets you back to that place of recovery. Be my suggestion.
So for the audience, what do you think the most important thing is they should take away from this?
Recognize that it's real, that trauma is, level 2 trauma is a real thing. It's insidious. It's, I think, a lot like abuse. Sometimes you get into an abusive relationship and you don't realize that you're in an abusive relationship until you've gotten to the point where your nervous system is so completely destroyed and fried that, and you can't see the way out of it. So recognize that caregiving can oftentimes feel like this, but there are ways out of it. And what they are telling you in nursing school, just go home and drink a bottle of wine and you'll fall asleep and it'll all be better tomorrow, is not the answer. But recognize that it's likely to happen. Understand the disease process of your loved one if you are a family caregiver, and know that there are tools to help you through this journey. That's what I would say as takeaways. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is key in this type of work.
Okay, I'm going to take a change of subject here. At the beginning, I introduced you as the founding editor of Forge magazine. Let's hear a little bit about Forge.
Oh my gosh. Well, I started Forge magazine this year in January, and I thought, gosh, I was doing newsletters for Compass and for Archetype and for Helix MD, which is our physician leadership development and recovery as well. So started Forge. I'm like, why am I doing 4 or 5 newsletters when I can just put it all into one? So I created a magazine style format, and oh boy, it's way more work than I had ever anticipated. So Forge, I was initially hesitant about the name because I think of a forge, right, where you go and beat metal and you make a horseshoe or a knife or something out of it. But once I kind of understood and looked at the word forge, I thought, oh gosh, there's forging forward, right? Going forward and having momentum. And there's forging something metal with fire and beating it until it becomes something sometimes of great beauty. And so I thought, oh, okay, so Forge stuck with me from that perspective of kind of constant momentum forward. But it really is just a compilation of all the different things that fall under the archetype ecosystem as it's been built out over the past 5 years. So we cover things related to dementia care. Tracy, you are one of our great contributors. We covered things related to physicians. We talk a lot about this type of event, these events, these things that occur within the workplace that cause that level 2 trauma. In fact, that was our whole May edition, was when leadership hurts. So Forge, just kind of has become something much bigger than I ever anticipated and only 5 months in. So suddenly found myself a magazine editor.
We have 5 minutes left. What would you like to cover that we haven't covered already?
I think just reiterating that this is a very real thing. Caregivers are exhausted. I hear it all the time. Physicians are exhausted. Physicians are leaving the healthcare industry because they are saying we've had enough. So if the physicians are experiencing this, we know it's got to be really bad for a lot of the caregivers. Again, professional caregivers that covers so many different areas within our healthcare sector, but also for the family member who finds themselves the kind of unwilling, unwitting, unknowing caregiver. All of a sudden, there are resources that are out there for you. And I encourage you to, definitely Tracy's book has been a lifesaver. I have passed that book off to so many people. and it keeps coming back to me, which I guess is good, but I'm like, no, it's yours. Please take it. I want you to have this as a gift. It's a really valuable compendium of all sorts of tips and tricks and knowledge that Tracy has amassed from her 4-time event of her own. But know that there are resources out there. You don't have to do this alone. And I would say if you're anticipating, knowing that this might be in the future for you, get ahead of it so you can stay ahead of it. And because oftentimes, this might come for a shock for folks, but oftentimes the individual with the progressive disease, like Alzheimer's type dementia or Parkinson's, oftentimes ends up outliving their spouse caregiver because it can be that stressful. So again, that might be a little bit shocking to hear. And it's not my intent to shock you. It's my intent to help you be better prepared and know what you're getting into as you go about this, because it is a heavy lift. And the caregivers that we see in the environment, they are kind of accustomed to this lift, as difficult as it might be to do the work. But oftentimes, I think families are often caught off guard.
So I'm going to dovetail one more time. You have a new show coming out soon.
I do. Yes, I'm coming back to USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you for that plug. It's called It Shouldn't Hurt to Go to Work. And we're going to cover all kinds of topics that are distressing topics, level 2 trauma topics themselves that are showing up at work. Happy to be back. And our first show is Friday, June 5th at 9 a.m. So hope to see you there.
Oh, well, welcome back to USA Global TV.
Thank you. It's great to be back with you. Thank you so much. And I know you're out in the community doing great work, helping people understand what it means to be a caregiver, a family caregiver. So,
well, thank you, Danielle. And thank you for joining us today.
You are more than welcome. And I'll be at the the Long-Term Care Foundation of Washington State, covering 5 sessions of their summer series on employee engagement in the long-term care facilities. So excited to be that. Thank you so much for that introduction, Tracy.
You're very welcome. Oh, well, join me again on June 16th. We'll be returning with guest Allison Schreier, president and co-founder of Zinnia TV, where she will be telling us about her experience with FTD, frontotemporal dementia, when she was caregiving for her husband, on the next episode of the Dementia Home Care Show. See you next time, everyone.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hey you, psst, yes you, watching this right now. Are you creating content, a blog, a podcast, a newsletter, going live on Instagram or TikTok, and still not seeing real visibility or growth? Here's why. Anyone can post, anyone can go live, but not everyone is positioned to be taken seriously. Right now, people are going to YouTube to search for experts, for answers, for credibility. So while you're putting in the work, someone else is being seen as the authority. Not because they know more, because they're positioned better. Now imagine this. Your own professionally produced TV show, marketed, distributed, optimized with SEO so people can actually find you. Not just seen, but searchable, discoverable, positioned. You're trained, you're coached, you're guided. No experience necessary, but you do have to be coachable, because this is about stepping into a higher level. This isn't about doing more, it's about doing it right. We've already built the platform, 2 YouTube channels, a global audience, a Silver Creator Award. So the question is, how much longer are you going to rely on temporary visibility when you could be building real authority? If you're ready to be seen differently, go to usaglobaltv.com and apply to host your own show. This is for individuals who are serious about investing in their visibility, their credibility, and their growth. If that's you, we're ready. USA Global TV and Radio, where your voice becomes your platform. Executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer, Paul Garcia. Voiceover, Ed Vargas. All rights reserved. This production is the exclusive property of the USA Global TV and Radio and may not be reproduced, distributed, or used without written permission.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.